Tonight, tall ships on a worldwide regatta encounter stormy seas at Opua Wharf.
Probably about 20 or 30 kilos of popcorn, which is weevil infested.
Cash dog Roxy sniffs out this man with more dollars than cents.
It's all hundreds. It looks like a lot to me.
And a suspicious parcel that cost someone $400 to send ends up costing them much more. Official port of entry on Northland's east coast is peaceful Opua. But it's about to get a bit frantic for locally based Ministry for Primary Industries Inspector Mike and his team.
We have several tall ships arriving who've been competing in the tall ships regatta from Sydney to Opua, and they're going to require clearance on arrival.
The first tall ship to arrive is Dutch vessel the Tekla, with a crew whose journey has spanned half the globe.
So Europe, Canary Islands, South Africa and then Mauritius. And from Mauritius straight across to Western Australia.
Translated, that means plenty of opportunities for unwelcome stowaways and prohibited goods to have hitched a ride. Mike wastes no time heading down to the galley, and straight away, there are issues.
That's got to go in there because that's all fruit fly host material, and they have 4 species of fruit fly in Australia.
In the dry store, more prohibited items are found.
So we've got South African mayonnaise, that's not allowed in because of the egg content, and it's not processed enough, and they have a lot of poultry diseases there that we don't have.
Overall, the Tekla gets a glowing report from MPI. Everyone has tried to comply with biosecurity regulations, so it's a positive start.
Very good, you did. Heavy. Good training, eh? Is that quite light? Cheers. Thanks very much for your help. Appreciate that.
The team hopes the next tall ship to dock, Europa from the Netherlands, will sail through its inspection too.
We'll be interested to see what we get on off this one.
Below deck, Mike starts hunting for anything untoward. And it looks like this tall ship from the Netherlands is taking a never-mind approach to New Zealand's biosecurity rules. It's just before the weekend at Queenstown Airport, and a number of international visitors have arrived for some winter fun.
Have you carried any drugs?
One visitor from Korea has alerted the attention of clever drug dog Austin.
So you don't speak English very well?
The man clearly thinks his halting English is a handy way to avoid an explanation.
Where are you coming from today?
So Customs Officer Stephen takes the steering wheel. Some questions about the purpose of his visit are in order.
Are you working here this time, or what will you do this time?
Vacation.
Vacation? What do you think you'll do while you're vacationing here?
I don't understand.
No problem.
But the man's alleged lack of English is at odds with the rather good use of it in his declaration form.
Did you fill this card in yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can read English okay?
No, this is my friend is here.
Your friend is here? They live in Queenstown?
Stephen needs to establish why Austin indicated so clearly on the suspicious character, so it may be some time before the man will be able to meet up with his friends in the arrivals hall. At Auckland International Airport's departure gate, Customs dog handler Brendan and his cash-sniffing dog Roxy are on the lookout for people trying to sneak out with over $10,000 in undeclared currency. Roxy makes a beeline for this man in the patterned shirt.
Indication on he's carrying $9,000.
This gentleman is adamant he's under the limit with $9,000, so the task of counting it falls on Customs Officer Simon's shoulders.
It's all hundreds. It looks like a lot to me. And establish if I'm carrying any more.
The Fijian resident says he makes frequent business trips to New Zealand. Often it's a weekly commute, but today he's flying on to the US for a family holiday.
How long are you going to be in the States for?
About a week.
About a week?
Yeah.
And where in the States are you going?
It's LA. One of the hotels, probably.
Yeah.
Vague travel plans like this raise alarm bells for customs staff.
You even got an extension on your passport. Haven't seen one of those in a while.
The extension is due to the fact he travels so frequently he's run out of pages in his passport way before it's due to expire. If he can be that organised, then surely he's read the rules around declaring cash.
You travel like every week. You must know exactly how much to declare.
Yeah, no,
Look at this.
it's $10,000, I know.
The man's confident he's under the $10,000 limit.
Carrying around $10,000 in your bag.
That's not much.
Why then does his wife seem so nervous? At the northern port of Opua, Biosecurity Inspector Mike and his team are checking the tall ship Europa, who are hoping to get clearance to enter New Zealand, but they are not off to a good start.
You've got other meat in here that's not from Australia, so there's a chance of cross-contamination.
Aussie meat and dairy products comply with local regulations, but the vast majority of foodstuffs on board come from other destinations, meaning potential biosecurity risks.
South African meat is a no-no. What's this? This is built on.
It's disappointing for biosecurity staff that such a simple provision can be overlooked so carelessly.
There's a lot of pre-arrival information given about this stuff. Chicken's not allowed in. It's got to be commercially packaged and identifiable as country of origin.
It's into the bin with the offending items. This wasted food will have a high price tag and swells to include honey,
You've got to put about 10 kilos of honey.
eggs,
10 kilos of eggs.
chickpeas,
You can hear them rattling.
and beans.
What we're worried about, if these got ashore and they germinated and grow, then it could affect, the disease could be spread.
The disappointed sailors watch on as their confiscated produce gets dumped in the brand new mobile destruction unit.
Getting a good workout, isn't it?
The Europa's food budget is going to be in for a hammering, but the cost to New Zealand's primary industries would be far greater.
All right, well, I better head on down to this other one. We better start clearing it. Hopefully this one will be a bit quicker and a bit more organised.
Parked up behind Europa is the Lord Nelson. They followed a similar route to the other ships, but have also passed through India and Sri Lanka. Luckily for the biosecurity team, they do seem well informed.
Any honeys?
No, we were warned about that.
But as Mike starts fossicking in the pantry,
What's that yellow thing?
it looks like the crew of this tall ship might be telling tall tales.
That yellow little thing.
Back on dry land, the International Mail Centre Customs team has a parcel with several inconsistencies.
Got quite a large parcel here. It says it's almost 16 kilo. It's going to a chap by the name of Kerry, who doesn't have another name.
Customs Officer Craig notices that the package is declared as a writing case. What is especially suspicious is that it's cost more than $400 to send by post from China.
We get a lot of potentially prohibited goods out of China.
Either this is a very special writing case, or there is something highly questionable inside. Craig needs to investigate further.
Actually, sir, just don't touch anything. Just leave it here, please.
At Queenstown Airport, Customs Officer Stephen is checking a Korean man's luggage after a strong indication by drug dog Austin.
So, do you use any drugs?
His refusal to answer does not bode well. Plus, he's a little bit over-anxious about keeping his host waiting outside.
Would you like me to go and talk to him?
No.
No, you don't want me to?
Stephen is curious to see if this man's hiding something dubious, so he starts looking for telltale signs in his bags.
This is the storyboard for a commercial.
The storyboard suggests he could be here to work on a TV commercial.
You did it some time ago?
2 months ago.
2 months ago.
But Stephen thinks the ink is too fresh to have been done 2 months ago, so he presses him further.
Will you ski?
Ski and bomb down here.
Take photographs?
Yeah.
Yeah?
But the range of professional gear in his suitcase suggests he's here to take more than just selfies.
So he's got his big lenses, pretty commercial-looking things in my limited knowledge. So I'm wondering if he's here to work at this point, as well as the dog indication. So there's a little more going on now than there was a moment ago.
In the Bay of Islands, Ministry for Primary Industries' operation to inspect a regatta of tall ships is bearing much fruit and vegetables and other foodstuffs that could pose a risk to New Zealand's primary industries.
We don't know, it's unidentifiable, so it's going to have to go.
And on board this ship, the Lord Nelson, Biosecurity Inspector Mike has found an unidentified object.
What's that yellow thing there?
Concealed at the back of a pantry.
That yellow little thing.
Tasmanian honey.
There you go, look at that.
Oh,
Gee, I picked it, eh?
Downstairs, more prohibited items are located.
This is all scrambled egg mix. About 100 kilos, probably the most amount of eggs I've ever taken off any vessel.
But the rest of the Lord Nelson passes inspection.
All the mayonnaise is from Australia, so it's all right.
Next, Mike finds himself aboard the legendary Kiwi vessel, the Spirit of New Zealand.
You have a good trip?
Oh, absolutely.
Bread's okay. Your dairy products are going to be all right from Australia or New Zealand. There's no meat in there. No, all good.
Mike thinks he knows why this vessel has arrived as clean as a whistle.
It's a Kiwi, it's New Zealand boat.
But the crew have a less patriotic reason for their clean bill.
Ate like the pigs yesterday. We had 3 full meals.
But as Mike goes aboard his next vessel, the Australian naval boat Young Endeavour, he finds they've got less to crow about.
The unfortunate news is the chicken.
At the International Mail Centre, Customs Officer Craig has a weighty problem. A 16-kilo package from China being X-rayed.
Okay, so straight away we can see here something's not quite right.
The declaration form says the contents are a writing case, but the X-ray shows something completely different.
Normally you'd expect them to be flat and even consistency amongst it. And this one here, it looks like something's pulled in the corner.
To find out what's inside, Craig begins opening the parcel.
Okay, there's quite a strong gluey smell, which could be part of the goods, or it could be if they've hidden something inside.
Craig's suspicions are confirmed. The cheap set of drawers are not a writing case and not worth spending $400 posting to New Zealand.
When I run my hands over it, it's not quite smooth around the edges, so there might be something underneath this base.
It's practically a dead cert that something has been concealed in here.
Okay, so our corner here is peeling up quite easily, and underneath it we have a hard layer of plastic with some kind of white crystalline substance inside.
It's a well-planned, well-executed attempt, but not clever enough to get across the border.
They've used a vacuum refrigeration bag to seal it up in, so it must be nice and airtight.
To be 100% sure that this white powder is what he thinks it is, Craig conducts a NIC, or narcotic identification test.
And there you are. It's changing straight away to purpley, which means that it's ephedrine or an ephedrine product.
Each drawer reveals yet more of the illicit compound.
And that's weighing at about 210 grams, including the packaging. So if we've got 12 of them, could be anywhere from a couple of $1,000s to hundreds of thousands of dollars.
This ephedrine would have had a street value of $45,000, with the potential to make $90,000 worth of methamphetamine. At Auckland International Airport, Customs have taken a man aside on suspicion of trying to leave with a lot of undeclared cash.
He's carrying $9,000.
He's a frequent visitor from Fiji. As such, he should be aware of the regulations around declaring excess currency.
Aren't you worried about carrying around $10,000 in your bag?
That's not much. It's not much for me.
He may be rolling in cash, but he's going to be drowning in trouble as his wife has also been singled out.
His wife's got another 9,500, so they've got about 19,000 between the two of them.
The man's wife confesses the money is in fact her husband's, not her own, meaning herself and her kids are free to board the plane. Although there will be a delay for the man who is off to the red zone for further questioning.
He says he travels every week. He just said this is the first time he's taken this amount of money out.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that seems a bit strange that we happened to catch him this one time.
The man paid a $500 fine for carrying $19,500 of undeclared cash. He was able to board his plane and join his family.
Sorry, you can't use it. You must put it down now.
At Queenstown Airport, Customs Officer Stephen is dealing with a Korean man who's been indicated on by a drug dog and now also is suspected of trying to work illegally in the country.
So, where is your camera?
My camera.
Your friend has a camera? Okay. Yeah, I'm picking this guy might be here to work.
The clue to what the man is trying to hide may lie with his friend, so Stephen calls for backup.
Control, is there any other searches available at the moment?
The photographer is also becoming increasingly uncomfortable, as evidenced by his behaviour.
A lot of pacing and folded arms.
One of Stephen's colleagues has collared the man's friend on the land side, and what he says does not bode well for this unusual visitor. In the Northland port of Apua, Biosecurity Inspector Mike is methodically checking a succession of tall ships that plan to sail around New Zealand to ensure no plants or animals are on board that could be bringing potential risks with them. Now on board the Australian naval boat, the Young Endeavour, Mike's found a supermarket full of Aussie chicken in their freezers.
The unfortunate news is the chicken.
I heard something about the chicken and I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's not allowed in. There's a lot of disease risk with poultry. Yep. You've actually got, you've had an outbreak of avian bird flu too.
The chooks will have to be chucked. And in the galley, Mike digs out a garden full of fruit and vegetables that will also need to be destroyed.
A couple of kilos of lettuce, that's zucchinis and tomatoes. Probably about, I don't know, 10 kilos there.
You want the whole bag?
So I put the whole box in, they want in the box.
Despite the wastage, the Endeavour crew do have good reason for their surplus.
Had a couple of rough days at sea, so they didn't eat a great deal. There's a lot of spewing happening, but not much eating.
Yep.
But before they give this naval vessel the biosecurity seal of approval, it's out with the fruit. And vegetables, and any biosecurity treats they may be bringing with them. Even the leftovers are possible carriers of unwanted nasties. It all goes into the now bursting at the seams mobile destruction unit. Last but not least, the Canadian Picton Castle is docking. The first thing Mike sees is a hangover from the olden days, a genuine ship's cat. The problem is, though, that none of the crew have taken responsibility for the cat's vaccination history. But kept under lock and key, it can afford to wait for now.
We're going to move on to inspecting the stores and then we'll deal with the cat last.
The cat's not the only thing the crew don't know much about.
Yeah, where's that from?
That is hard to say.
The origin of much of the meat is a mystery.
Chicken,
That looks like beef or pork.
Unknown.
There's more of the same.
Yep. We can't identify it, so...
If the careless crew had thought to keep the till dockets, then they could have kept it on board. Instead, this bulk order is going straight into Mike's bulk bin.
Okay.
But it's not all doom and gloom for the vessel.
Chicken.
Yeah, it might be kiwi. Look at that, New Zealand chicken.
New Zealand
teal.
chicken. Yep.
Yeah, and it's original packaging, no problem.
As Mike checks the boat's dry stores, the Picton has to move off its berth to deeper water to avoid being stranded.
Any honey there? Yes, it's honey.
Clover blend.
New Zealand, I'd say. It's within its original packaging and not being used, the honey.
Then Mike spots the popcorn, carrying a major problem.
Probably about 20 or 30 kilos of popcorn, which is weevil infested. Okay, that's a pretty good find, yeah, that's high risk.
Food checks completed, the crew has one more bit of bad news. The ship's cat is too much of a risk and will be flying home to Canada.
This is a directing it into quarantine under MPI control.
The Picton Castle can officially be released from quarantine. However, the fate of the cat doesn't sit comfortably with Mike.
If they've done all the pre-arrival stuff properly, all the blood tests and the vaccinations and that, they could have gone into quarantine and then been released after about 10 days. No, it wasn't to be, unfortunately, so the outcome's got to be reshipped to Canada. Have a good trip. Yeah. Goodbye, George the cat.
At Queenstown Airport, Customs Officer Stephen is checking a Korean man who was indicated on by a drug dog. The man says he's on holiday, but going on the contents of his bags, it's more like a working holiday.
There's sort of three stories. There's, what's he doing here? And then as a subtext to that, is he working? Or something a little more sinister to do with the dog indication.
Swabs for the presence of drugs are taken from the man's possessions and put through the ion scanner. But the result is negative.
No, okay.
A thorough search of the man's bags reveals nothing untoward. It's decided that the drug dog indication is due to possible contamination prior to his arrival in New Zealand.
How'd you go out there?
Yeah, eventually found them.
However, Customs Officer Alana has succeeded in tracking down the man's friend in the arrivals room.
So, he
Yes.
should be on a work visa.
Thank you.
Filming here for a Korean client.
This contradicts what the man previously said when he was so adamant that he was here for a holiday, confirming Stephen's suspicions.
You can see that this is freshly printed. There's no other creases in it. It's not months old.
Despite his deliberate untruths, it's decided that the man is no longer a customs concern. Following an interview with immigration, he admitted that he did plan to work while in New Zealand. They allowed him to enter on a short-term work visa. He was warned that if he intends to work in New Zealand again, he will need to contact immigration or risk being stopped at the